Welcome to Lebanon, where nothing ever works. Turn the lights on, no electricity, welcome to Lebanon. Turn the faucet on, no water, welcome to Lebanon. You go online, you can't upload, you can't download, welcome to Lebanon. We say this all the time, and we have a laugh. But what does it really mean? For a lot of people, it means get out, escape if you can, go get a job somewhere else. Nothing is ever going to change here. That's just the way Lebanon is. Hada Lebanon, as we say in Arabic. And I hear this a lot from politicians. They tell me this, they say, Hada Lebanon, whenever I ask them a difficult question, a question that they don't want to answer or they don't know how to answer. And that's where my work begins as an investigative journalist. It begins with a question. Why? Why does this person not want me to know? Why does this person not know? So I start out by doing the basic research. I go online, I try to find previous articles about this topic. I look for holes in the story. What are the unknowns? What doesn't make sense here? I make a list of questions, and I start to call politicians and officials. And they talk to me because I'm a journalist. But now you don't have to be a journalist to ask questions and to get answers. You can be an empowered consumer of news, an empowered citizen. And as a journalist, I find myself increasingly relying upon non-journalists, citizens in my community, to help me get answers. I do this by taking my questions and putting them online. And I start to get a lot of responses. I post questions on Facebook, on Twitter, on my blog. Recently, I started to ask questions about Lebanese archaeology. And anybody who knows the history of Beirut during the post-war reconstruction process knows that a lot of the old city was torn down and a lot of new towers came up. And in that process, a lot of ancient ruins were discovered. And a lot of ancient ruins went missing or got damaged. Even high-level officials today in the government admit that ruins went missing or got damaged during this process. One of the problems is transparency. So whenever there's a new construction site in Beirut, there are these big walls that go up around it, and you really can't see what's going on inside, what's being dug up. But recently, I was walking by one of these sites, and I noticed that despite these big imposing walls, there was a gap in between the wood panels, and I could kind of look through and see what was going on down there. So I thought, what if I take my cell phone camera, and I just kind of wedge it into this gap and start taking pictures? And I saw some interesting stuff, but I didn't know what it was. So I asked the community. I took these pictures, I put them on my blog, and I started to get the responses. I had activists, archaeologists getting in touch with me. They said, these are really important ruins. This could be one of the most important sites in Beirut. But they were worried, because this is also the site of a new luxury 5-star hotel and mall complex that's supposed to be built in the same place. And so I felt compelled to go down there and to document these ruins before they might also disappear. And I got in touch with the government agency that's involved in these ruins, and I asked, can I go down there and take some pictures? And they said, no way. And I said, what do you mean? I mean, what if the bulldozers come tomorrow and the ruins are removed? I said, don't worry, we'll send you pictures. I didn't think that was right. I think people have a right to know what's being dug up in their city. I think people have a right to know their history, to see their history before it's gone. So I asked the community, once again, how can I get pictures of this place? And somebody said, why don't you go to a rooftop and take pictures from there? Seemed like a good idea. But the problem was that these ruins were often covered in a white canvas. So you couldn't even see from above what was really going on there. And, I didn't know what to do. So I continued to monitor this site. Every time I went downtown for a meeting or to cover news, I would stop by this site and look through the hole and check on the ruins. And sure enough, one day, about 2 weeks later, when I looked through, I noticed that the canvases were pulled back and the ruins were all exposed. But I didn't have my camera. So I jumped into a cab, I rushed home, I grabbed my camera, I raced back to the scene, I just found a building nearby, I just went into the building, I just went to the rooftop, and I just started taking pictures. And there were a lot of interesting things to see. There were these long Roman roads, intricate mosaics, a series of mosaic floors, and most importantly, what's believed to be the Roman Gate of Beirut. Now, this could be a breakthrough discovery, because up until now, archaeologists haven't been able to locate the precise area of the Roman city of Beirut. And here, possibly, we have the front door. So I took all these pictures, and I put them online. And I started to get the responses coming in. People were sharing and liking and tweeting in the hundreds. And then other bloggers started to notice, and they started to repost these pictures. And then newspapers started to notice, and they started to write about this story. And then TV stations started to write about this story. And it seemed like everyone was talking about these pictures. And I was really proud of these pictures, because these were the first publicly available images of this historic site. People were seeing their history for the first time. Amid all of this media frenzy, 2 days after I published these pictures online, the Minister of Culture came out with a statement. He said that the $150 million project would be stopped and the ruins would be preserved. Now, the minister added in his statement that he decided to do this a long time ago. I thought that was an interesting coincidence that he only made this statement public when there was so much pressure on the issue. And I'm convinced the liking, the tweeting, the sharing, the reposting had an impact on how officials handle this case. And it's not an isolated case. There are many battles being waged today in Lebanon by activists. Recently, the municipality of Beirut decided to build a big highway that would cut through one of the greenest and most historic neighborhoods in Beirut. The municipality was determined to build this highway project, $75 million at least to spend. But the activists were also determined to stop it, to preserve this space. And what they did was they created a series of images showing the potential path of destruction that this highway would take, how this highway would basically just wipe out the last big green spaces in this neighborhood. Now, the municipality of Beirut didn't like these pictures. They said, oh, they're all wrong because, it's not a highway, it's just a road. A big road with tunnels and bridges, They said, oh, it's just a boulevard, a beautiful boulevard. But the pictures still went viral. And not only did they have an impact on social media, but they also helped inspire journalists like me and others to start paying attention to this story, to start asking questions and writing about it. And I wrote a piece for a big newspaper. But it was because of the activists, through their research, I was able to discover that this highway project had no environmental impact study behind it. And so when I went to interview one of the head government engineers, I asked him, well, where is the environmental impact study? And he said, what study? There's no need for studies. There's no trees in this neighborhood. I thought that was kind of curious, so after I published my mainstream article, I went and did a follow-up blog post trying to document all of these non-existing trees. And I posted these non-existent trees on my website. And I got a lot of responses, and the post kind of went viral. But the activists were working really hard. They were working day and night. They were working online and offline. They were holding rallies. They were taking over the street. And once again, the mainstream media started to take notice and pay attention to the story. And the TV crews showed up. And the story started to get everywhere. Everybody was talking about this road. And there was so much pressure on this issue that the municipality of Beirut was forced to stop doing this project and to start doing an environmental impact study. And today, over 1 year since this project was supposed to break ground, over 1 year today, since this project was supposed to break ground, there is no digging and no construction, and the environmental studies are continuing. Now, the activists say it's a partial victory because the municipality is still determined to revive this project, but the activists are also determined. Maybe with your help, they can get the kind of public pressure needed to have an impact on how officials handle this issue. Now, as I said, it's not an isolated case. These are not isolated cases. There are many battles today being waged in Lebanon. Activists are fighting for internet rights, they're fighting to preserve culture and heritage spaces, they're fighting against racism, they're fighting for civil marriage. These are not movements to overthrow governments, but it doesn't mean that they're not significant. These are targeted campaigns that have had an impact on specific policies and policy makers. There have been some victories, and there have been some defeats. But in all of these cases, people used basic tools, camera phones, social media statuses, to ask questions. They worked together to get answers. They formed online groups. They held rallies offline. They created hashtags, collecting information to find out who was responsible and to hold them accountable. This used to be the work of journalists, but now everyone has these tools. Everyone can do something. The key here is to be specific, to find a specific issue and to start asking specific questions about it, and to be determined, to be a concerned citizen. And I think that's at the heart of improving our societies, citizenship, when we care enough to ask questions, when we are dedicated enough to work together to make an issue go viral to get politicians' attention. It may come as no surprise that politicians and big businesses, they don't like this activity. They don't want to hear all of our questions and concerns. They are happiest when we stay silent, when we just smile and laugh with them and say, "Welcome to Lebanon," and give up hope. But what if we said, "Welcome to Lebanon," where average citizens are making their voices heard? Welcome to Lebanon, where average citizens are asking questions, and they're helping journalists like me to do a better job. And they're actually having fun, because it feels good to contribute to your society and to meet others who feel the same way. The good news is, this is already happening, and everyone here can and should be a part of it. So get out your phones, swipe open your cameras, start taking pictures, start asking questions. And post what you find, but also post what you don't find. Repost what others find. Support these existing groups and others. Most importantly, don't give up, don't give in, and welcome to Lebanon.